Good evening. How is everyone this evening? Hopefully you are all well, enjoying the sunny weather. Well, sat in listening to us. So, I mean, what else could you want in life? So, welcome to the Property CEO support sessions. Some of you might be new this evening. There's a few names I don't recognise on here, so I'm sure some of you are new. So, my name's Richie Clapson, and I'm here with the some say the better half of Property CEO. I tend to disagree, Mr. Ian Child.
Good evening.
Yeah, look at that. He even talks as well. So look, it's great to have you guys here. So what are support sessions? What are they about? Well, 45 minutes, at maximum of an hour, but try and be done in 45 minutes. So 7:45, we'll try and get you away. If we run on a little bit more, apologies, but definitely by 8 o'clock, you're definitely gone. So if there's something on the Goggle box you want to watch at 8 o'clock, it will be there for you. And we're here to just try and inject a little bit of energy, positive energy, into everything that's happening in the world right now. Isn't it right, Ian?
We certainly are. For those of you that are new tonight, let me tell you a little bit about what we are, who we are and what we do. Basically, we train people how to develop properties. So perhaps people that haven't maybe done property development before, or maybe even some experienced developers. Many people obviously quite like the idea of developing property, but they worry it might be a bit risky, a bit too complex. So our job is to give them the support, the training that they need to do it as kind of safely and as successfully as possible. And we decided to run these support sessions because we wanted to try and help people get through what is certainly a rather challenging time at the moment. And we know from experience that when there's a recession coming along, there's generally opportunity comes right behind it. So we thought, wouldn't it be great? See if we can help people find those opportunities and kind of get prepared for them. Now, obviously, no way we can completely ignore the storm that's passing overhead at the moment. The whole pandemic issue is a kind of a separate discussion to these events. We're going to be focusing very much in these on livelihoods, on business, and on trying to basically come out the other side of recession in the best possible shape. So that's who we are and why we're here.
So this is absolutely 1,000,000% a glass half full zone. That's all it is in here, half full. And we're just going to have that little bit of escapism, as I know some of our guests have often said, a little bit of escapism for 45 minutes to do what we want to do. As Ian says, we're not belittling anything that's going on out there, but just right here and now, we're obviously going to be nice and positive. So happy to take questions. In fact, if you don't have any questions, we're just going to sit and look at you through the screen. So you need to throw some questions in the box so we can answer those questions. We do have some questions to kick off with, so that's good. Some people have sent them in prior to this, so we have asked for that occasionally. If you've got questions you want to send in, that's great. It gives us a chance to try and work out an answer as well. So we're happy to do that. Great stuff. Obviously, a few of you on. Obviously, as always, can't mention everyone, but Devs, Andy, Chris, Clive, Yvonne, Simon, Roma, Raj, Malcolm, Jacqueline, Gord, Graham, etc., etc., etc. Welcome to you all. A few of them said, evening, gents. Good evening. Dominic says, guys, you're both on the wrong side to each other. Wrong, 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 exclamation mark, exclamation mark. I don't know if there was a right side, Dom. I'm not sure what you're expecting. If you want us to switch, I'm not sure we can actually easily do that, but you never know.
Is that like the Ant and Dec thing, where we've got to be on the right side all the time?
Yeah, Yvonne says hello. Edward says hi, guys. Just hands up. Make sure you can all hear us. Can you put your hands up if you can hear and see us? Yes, you can. Look at that. All the hands going up and down, up and down. So people are flashing them on and off. Brilliant. I don't know how you do that. Excellent, guys. Good stuff. Well, welcome all on board. Shall we get straight into it? Shall we drop those hands and do some questions? Chris. Actually, yes, Chris is on this evening. Chris, we had a question in from you the other day. So thank you for this. Let's just read out this question. It's a long question. So Chris has written a long question. Chris, you'll notice I took a little bit off the end of your question, and you'll see why in a minute. So Chris's question is, listen carefully. The biggest problem I have right now is getting a way leave signed by the local authority for electricity company to run a cable along the edge of their parking site so we can connect up our development. So trying to run a cable in and get a way leave. We had an agreement from the head of the department to sign. The council legal department has drafted the document, but it is sitting in a pile of papers somewhere for signature. I have been passed off from pillar to post in the council. and don't seem to be able to get any response. As you can appreciate, under normal circumstances, there is no sense of urgency from them. Now, with coronavirus, it's even worse. Chris's question did follow up was, other than going around and sorting them out, more or less, that wasn't quite what you said, was it, Chris? What should I do? Well, I'd strongly suggest, Chris, don't go around and sort them out in the manner that you described in the message to us. But I think the difficulty is, and everyone out there will appreciate this, trying to get local authority to do things when you want them to do them is a nightmare. And it is now. It's going to be even worse. Obviously, there's not that many people around. The only way, Chris, that I've done it before, there's no real legal pressures you can put on them. They just a bit manana. They just go at their own pace, and you will get passed from pillar to post if you're not careful. The only way I've ever been successful with local authorities or utility companies, and they all come out the same mold, they're all educated in the same place, is actually build a relationship with someone. Build a bit of rapport. Okay, so just as an example, Chris, I had a electricity connection bill which was way too much. We actually tried to reuse an existing connection. Turned out we couldn't. Got hit with a big cost that I didn't really want, wasn't really expecting, hadn't budgeted for, and it was about $8,000. So I thought, well, I'm going to try and get it down. I said to the contractor, I'm going to try and get this reduced. And my contractor said, well, you'll have a laugh. They never reduced their bill. And I just got a hold of this guy, Chris, in the department, and I befriended him, if you like. And I've just built up a bit of relationship, and I chatted to him, and I just used a bit of cheeky chappy humour. And I said, look, is there anything you can do with the price? And he went, no, that's the quote. That's what we quote. I said, oh, come on. I said, you must be able to do something. I said, look, I've got kids. They've got to eat. You know, they've got to eat. And at the moment, this weekend, there's no food on the table. And I had him laughing. And he was, oh, don't pull that one. Because I had him laughing with a bit of humour. So I befriended him. He was then humanized just for a period of time, one has to say. So, you know, I had him on my side. And then I noticed a little chink in his armour, and he went, oh, he said, I don't know. I couldn't take much off. I thought, right, I've got him. So I worked on him a bit. I said, well, where can you take money off? He said, well, I've got a lot of costing for traffic diversions and stuff. I said, well, we don't need all that. Come on, you know, let's just do it much simpler. That road's not very busy. And we chatted around it, and there were things that he could do. He still had to tick a box and put a number in which was associated with a tick and so on. But he had a bit of shades of grey where he could maneuver and do stuff. In the end, he said he promised to go and have a look at it. And it was something like I said, he said, well, don't expect much. And I said, well, if it doesn't come back and it start with a 6, because I think it was about $8,000. I said, if it doesn't start with a 6, then I'm going to come around and sort you out. You know, with a bit of fun and a bit of a laughter, not, as your suggestion was, I'm sure. I don't think you were serious about it. And we just had a bit of a laugh with it. And it did. It came back, and I got $1,500, $2,000 off of it. So, okay, this is something slightly different, but in a way, it's the same principle, Chris. I think the only way you're going to get there is befriend someone, build a connection with them. It's difficult because you've never met them, but just build a rapport. Like anyone, if you've got rapport with someone, you're going to go a long way in that relationship. But if you have no rapport, you're not going to get anywhere. So the first thing you want to do is get in there, build that rapport, spend some time. Having a bit of fun. I don't know your character, Chris. I don't know what your nature is and how you do it. But if you've got that ability to have a little bit of fun, be a bit human. If they can respond, and they don't always, but if you can find someone that does, if that's not that person, move on. They might be able to help you out, and it might be, look, I just really need to get this through. You know, I'm up against it. I really seriously am up against it. You're not a big national developer, so. You know, people might think, well, okay, I want to help you out because, you know, yeah, you're struggling like me out there at the moment. And, you know, tell them you've got a family, you've got this, find that common ground. If you've got common ground, then that will work. You know, if they've got young kids, you've got young kids, they've got old kids, you've got old kids, you've got grandchildren. I don't know what the score is. And build that rapport. That, I think, is your best and almost certainly probably your only way to push it through in this current time. Chris?
I think it goes to reinforce the point that it's all a people business, isn't it? You mentioned utilities there. I just thought it might be worth mentioning that they're the other. They can be the ones that drag their heels when it comes to development. So one of the kind of golden rules is to make sure that you as soon as you've got a project, as soon as you started, getting in touch with the utility companies is one of the first things you need to be thinking about. But it reminded me that when you're trying to go through that frustrating issue of contacting utility companies who direct you to a central head office in a call center somewhere miles away from where you are, that actually they're very reliant on the people within the utility company that work locally who actually deliver all of the services to you on site. And what's quite fascinating is that the people in the call center quite often really, I mean, you're just a number to them. There's no sort of personal interaction. As soon as you start dealing with the people on the ground, they're human, and quite often they've got a load of local knowledge about your site because they've been working in the area for a long time. It can be extremely useful, and that's again, as soon as you get into contact with utility people, when you see them actually on site, I think that's when you want to be building that rapport, because you never know when you're going to be needing their goodwill to be able to kind of sort out a problem or get something resolved quickly, particularly if it involves not having to go up to head office to get it signed off, because that can literally take weeks, if not months.
Just Chris come back. No, he wasn't serious about going around and sorting them out, so that's good. Smiley face. He said, thanks for the advice. I have since heard from them and they are now making progress. Excellent. Chris, I think that's great. Pleased for you, but a really good question, because I think that comes out for a lot of people. They're going to get into these situations. And just to add to what Ian was saying there, in terms of, we had a direct situation like that where we actually were working on the south coast in an area called Portsmouth, and the water company was in Scotland. So we were speaking to some Scots about some stuff in Portsmouth. I knew we were in trouble when they said, Portsmouth, whereabouts is that? Hampshire. Yeah, whereabouts is that? Oh, blimey. Well, it's a long way down south. Keep driving south, and when you hit the water, just reverse back a couple of yards, and that's us. And it was a struggle from that point on. The only thing, exactly what Ian said there, bore out, and it bore fruit really in this situation. We managed to get a local connection. And when we got the local guy out, a relatively youngish guy came out in his little water van, and he said, oh, no problem, here's my card, give me a ring. He said, I know exactly where everything is. We can sort everything out for you. And yeah, no problem at all. Don't bother with head office, just call me. And so, yeah, you can really get the benefit when you get these things sorted. So, Chris, great question. Andrew's on this evening. Andrew says, evening, this is my first session with you. Looking forward to it. Andy, looking forward to having you on board. Hopefully you enjoy it. Andy, you'll realise that we have a bit of fun here, some good serious questions, but we have a bit of fun. And people seem to be becoming regulars, and they seem to be poking fun at us, Andy. So I'm sure you're new and you won't poke any fun at us. But you never know, you're probably going to slip into that within a few sessions, I can tell. Almost.
Well, you're in with a bad crowd, Andy, frankly. Looking at some of the names on this list, yeah, known troublemakers.
Yeah. Andy, you don't want to network with any of this lot, I can tell you. Debs is on. Des says, good evening, both Rich and Ian. Good evening, both. Rich and I, Deb's husband, Rich, are both eagerly listening. Okay, excellent. Obviously, not got enough of you doing our learning today on the program. Debs and Richard are on the program with us, so they've been listening to us by the sounds of it all day on their training sessions, and now they've come on this evening and they're listening to us now.
Gluttons for punishment.
I was going to say you need to get out more, but you're not allowed to do that these days, are you? Right. Question another question that came in the week from Trish. I can't see if she's on, but let's go for this, because if she doesn't join in a minute, she can always listen to the recording. Let's have a little bit of fun. Ian, one for you here, I think. Okay. So this is from Trish. Trish says, I'm going to read two questions out, and you can probably answer it in one, I think, because you're a very talented man like that.
Oh. Thank you.
I went out on a limb there, guys. Did you notice that? Anyway.
Hold on, let me just write that down.
Yeah, it's not recorded, this, is it? Anyway, how can I prepare and put myself in the best possible position for a broker to find a lender for me? What criteria do they work on? So how can I prepare and put myself in the best position for a broker to find a lender for me, and what criteria do they work on? And the second part of the question, you may be able to wrap it up all into one, is how to approach and attract potential private investments. So it's all-round investment for Trish.
All-round investment. Okay, well, if we start with the broker, so typically we'll be looking to use a broker to get in touch with commercial lenders. Generally recommend that you have 2 or 3 brokers that you have relationships with, because they don't all source their funds from the same place, and it's always good to have a bit of competition, bit of healthy competition. I think one of the first things to realize is that the broker is your friend. So basically they're acting as your kind of agent in broking that deal, but ultimately you need to satisfy them that you are kind of credible, so that you're kind of a good proposition, because their worst case scenario is that you actually, you bring a deal to the table, they then get you in front of a commercial lender, and then the commercial lender, the deal doesn't stack up, you don't look particularly credible, it just doesn't look like a good proposition. And then of course they've kind of damaged their relationship by association, really, by putting you in front of the lender. So first thing you've got to do is make sure that you've got a kind of your branding in place, that you're kind of, when people look at you and the broker looks at you and your website and your property development business, that they're seeing something that's credible. But then once you've got that relationship with the broker, it's all about, I think, honesty is the best policy. It's not like getting a home mortgage. At the end of the day, the commercial lenders, for sure, they're going to be looking at you, but they're going to be looking at the people on your team. They're going to be looking, in particular, at people like the contractor, and has that contractor done this type of project before? But they're also very much going to be looking at the deal. And they'll be pulling legs off it, kicking tires on it, and doing all sorts of wonderful things like that. And they've got more experience of pulling legs off things and kicking things than you have when it comes to deals. So they're going to put it through their machine to get it approved or not. And so the sort of position that kind of you're in is basically, it's not so much about whether you're a good credit risk or so on and so forth. It's like all these other component parts that come into play. So what you don't want to happen is to have a skeleton in the cupboard that you don't mention at the start with your broker, because your broker will be able to say something like, for example, all right, okay, that could be an issue, in which case I'm not going to bother approaching these lenders here because they won't like it, but I know a friendly lender over here that won't mind it, and so on and so forth. So I think making sure that you've got your branding in place, that you're upfront and honest with your broker to start off with, that you've got 2 or 3 that you're talking to, and remember that if you're putting yourself in their hands effectively, they will be the ones that represent you to the broker. So I think that's kind of the main part of it. And obviously make sure that you've done your due diligence on the deals. Make sure that you've crunched your numbers and got all your ducks in a row, so that it looks professional, so that you're presenting a credible deal. And then when it comes to, I think was the other question about private funding?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the secret with private funding is actually never to ask for money, which may seem a bit weird, but what you're trying to do is attract people rather than persuade them to invest. So again, you need that brand. You need to be able to look the part in terms of your business and the team that you have with you, and so on and so forth. You also need to make sure that your elevator pitch is nailed on. So it's not a sales script as such. It's much more that you can talk very fluently and with passion about what it is that you do. And then what tends to happen with investors, I'll be honest, quite often you talk to investors without knowing that they're investors. I mean, these are simply people that you might network with, or people that you might already know, who have money, who are would be very interested potentially in investments with significant returns. And of course, they might not actually know that you're in a position to offer that. So we don't go around and actually ask them. What we're doing here is kind of describing what it is that we do. So we talk about in our elevator pitch the sort of projects we do, where we do them, what sort of type, what sort of size, what sort of scale. And if you might reference the fact that you've got a panel of private investors as well as using commercial funding. And if they kind of think, well, it's quite interesting. I'm keen to learn a bit more, because I'm thinking, hey, maybe there's an opportunity for me to invest. That's when you can then start talking about, well, I've got a couple of deals in the bag that I'm working on at the moment. I could just talk you through those if you want. And one of the things, it's quite a powerful tool, having deals that you've looked at, and don't need to be deals that you've actually offered on or are actually work in progress, but just ones that you've analysed that are very typical of the size and the type of opportunity that that you would be working on. And you're able to just pull them out. They're not bound up all nicely. They are working documents, but you can talk through the high level numbers, and you can talk about the sort of type of project it is. And also, as just throw in there the sort of returns. We've got a couple of investors that I've earmarked for this one. We'll be looking at around about somewhere between 8 and 10% return annualized, and then you go on to the second one, and then that's the sort of thing that I do. And of course, what you're trying to do there is to prompt the question: do you invest? Could I invest with you? Are you open to other investors actually? Or is it a kind of a closed shop? And that's where you say, well, obviously for this particular project, it's work in progress. I've got investors earmarked, but I'd be very happy to get back in touch with you. We look at new projects all the time. So if I've got a new one coming up and you'd be interested, I could absolutely make a note to give you a call, and then we could discuss that. And then what you're doing there is really just, let's be honest, we've got two things kind of working in our favor here. One is that we can offer typically, let's just say 8 to 10% return for private investors, which, let's be honest, you're not going to get there anywhere else. So that is a very attractive rate of return, particularly as it's got property sitting at the back end of it. It's not like stocks and shares, which could evaporate to zero. It's property, so it's reasonably safe return when we compare it to lots of other things. So not only is it's a great return, there's a lot more money available in the market, both in the commercial market and in private lending, than there are deals that return 8 and 10%. So actually, I think one of the mindset issues that new developers can often have is that they think that getting the money is the hard part. That's the bit where they need to kind of, that they feel like they're on the back foot trying to approach investors. The reality is that it's actually the other way around, that there are very few places for investors to get 8 to 10%. And so you're always going to have an interesting conversation. The two critical bits, it's very much about credibility and about security. So what investors need to know is, a great rate of return, it sounds fantastic, but how confident am I that you're actually going to complete the project successfully, and that my money is going to be as safe as it can be. Obviously, one of the challenges, if you've got commercial lending, they always take a first charge. So typically, you're not able to offer a first charge on that asset to a private lender. You may have other assets you can give put a charge on, but actually, for that rate of return, that's one of the risks that they are taking. Is the fact that the security level is less than the commercial lender, but they're getting a fairly healthy rate of return for their investment.
Great stuff, Trish. Hopefully that has helped. If not, well, put another question in. Guys, I know a few of you have joined a little bit later. I see Becky's on. Hello, Becky. Good evening to you. Stephen's on. W. I don't know who W is. Ingang's on. So there's a few that I hadn't seen names before. Obviously, can't shout everyone out, but just a few I noticed come on. Interesting thing, just this week, on a completely personal thing, aside, Stephen's on here. Stephen, you know who you are. We don't always mention surnames. The power of Facebook is amazing. Stephen put a post up yesterday, happened to catch my eye, and it was a picture of him probably 30 odd years ago. And he mentioned when he was at the Air Training Corps, this guy actually was my parents' old neighbour and hadn't seen him for 30 years. And we've connected up on Facebook. It's amazing, just a lovely guy, and I hadn't seen him for 30 years. And just by Stephen posting something on Facebook, we've connected up. So that's really good. Stephen, thanks for posting that. It just made my day yesterday. That was quite good fun. Guys, if you have just joined us, and a few of you are new and you don't know the score, we'll basically throw any questions in the chat box. We'll answer pretty much any question we can as we go through. We're going to be done by 7:45. It's fairly quick fire, as you can tell. Obviously, when Ian's on, it does go a little bit slow, but I try and speed it up for you. It's okay. But by the way, let's just have a little vote. Like to have a little poll every now and then. Who thinks we should get the lockdown done really quickly so people can get out there, and particularly Ian, because he can go and get his hair cut. So give us a wave if you think Ian needs to go out and get his hair cut.
Do you know that is? I hear that Boris is making an announcement on Sunday about various things, and certainly top of my list or close is the Barnet. Yes, so hopefully normal service will be resumed fairly soon.
A few waves come up there, but I won't say who it was. I put them all back down. Thank you, guys. Bit of fun. Love that. Chris said earlier we talked about the local authority stuff. Thanks for the guys. Great. Thanks for that, guys. Great advice. Edward,
can I actually say, sorry, just to interject, this is the first time ever that you have instigated hair jokes. Just saying. I never thought it'd come to it.
Well, you know, this is the depths I have to go to every now and then. So Edward's question. Edward says, do you have any information on short leases and how to get rough idea of renewal extension? If I'm honest, Edward, no, I don't have any direct information I can give you. It's not something I've personally dealt with. What I would say, the process you're going to get in there, Edward, is a negotiation, because if you're going to want to get an extension on that lease, let's presume you're the person that's purchasing the extension. I don't know which way round this is, but let's just say you're going to purchase it, and you're going to purchase off of me, and I hold it, so I'm the freeholder there. Well, you're going to propose X, and I'm going to propose about 10x, because I'm going to be right up there and you're going to be right down here, and then we're going to do a deal. I don't think it's a deal meet in the middle, but ordinarily I'd find that you're probably going to meet nearer where you want to be than where we want to be, but it can be different in all circumstances, because what's the motivation? Now, if this is a lease extension on one unit and others have been extended, it's probably not such a big argument that I'm going to have if I own this to give the similar deal to you. If actually I'm looking as a freeholder at a slightly longer term game, and I actually don't really want you to have that, because I want the opportunity to grab back what I can and do a complete redevelopment, then I'm going to negotiate at a much higher and much harder level. So I think you've got to look at the motivation there of buyer and of course seller, and I'm not sure which way around you are here. You've got to look at that motivation of both parties to see where they're going to be. There are going to be guidelines and multipliers, as there would be in terms of selling a freehold now. So it's what's it worth, what are they going to get back for that, for giving you that, what's it worth to you. What I would say, probably the best person to have a chat with is probably a good solicitor, a good property solicitor in your locality, wherever this deal is, Edward, wherever you are in the country, and have a chat with them and see what's happening at the moment. You know, what's their experience of what's going for what sort of levels. You know, there's a lot of discussions around the real value of leases and freeholds and the appetite for that in the marketplace. It's probably forever changing. So even if I did know a bit, if I hadn't done one for a while, I'm probably not up to date. So best advice I would say, Edward, is get hold of a good property solicitor, have a chat with them and see what they say. If you need a good property solicitor, and in fact, if we've often asked, we ask you who you want us to bring on here. If you want us to bring a good property solicitor on, so you can ask questions. We normally bring guests on the Saturday show. So those that aren't familiar, we do a show on Saturday at 10 o'clock. Then please drop that in the chat box tonight, and indeed anyone else you want, and we'll try and get them on. So Edward, I know that's not totally answered it, but hopefully it's given you some guide. Okay, Raj just put a question in. Oh, I like Raj's question. Raj, I love your question, because Raj says evening 18. That's us, Ian. That's us.
Wow. B.A. Baracus.
You're guaranteed to get your question read out if you say something nice about us. So evening 18, read that twice. If before the lockdown you had made an offer on a property and it was accepted, however, there has been no further movement on the property as trends are downwards, is it ethical, good, I like that, to try and negotiate a reduced price? Yes, 100%. Raj, of course it is. I think we always say with everything in life, so I don't know everyone out there. I know some of you are probably developers. Some of you I know are working with us, training to be developers. Some of you I'm sure are new. Some of you I know are right on the beginning of your journey with us. And the thing that we always say is just be ethical. I love the fact, Raj, that you put that in there. I really do, because whilst you can go and screw someone, at this moment in time, there's definitely large opportunities to go out there and screw someone and take advantage in a very serious manner of someone and capitalize on their downfall. Personally, I and Ian, we strongly recommend you don't do that. Whilst you might get yourself a cracking deal, it just eat you up inside. I think if you've got strong values, we have here, and I think most people that come on these shows and listen to us, and that I think you're all of the same ilk. And I know a lot of you out there, and I'm judging by your questions. The fact you put ethical in, I love that. So don't go in and screw someone over, bottom line, because it'll come back and it'll just eat you up inside. And that's the rep you've got. That's your reputation going out there. That's the sort of person you are. And it's not a good place to be. But it is definitely ethical to renegotiate because the market's changed. Now, if you still like that building, you are definitely not going to be paying the same price if the market's dropping that you negotiated before the market started to drop. And that's just good business. The seller will know that, but you need to be respectful and say to the seller, I'm going to give you a fair, reasonable price, as I did before, but at the moment I don't know what the fair and reasonable price is. So I'm going to add an extension of my answer onto the question here, Raj, is that at the moment, right now, you can't renegotiate that price because you don't know at what point the market's going to bottom out. So what I would definitely do is engage in some conversation. Then we were talking about building rapport earlier, whether this is with the agent or the owner direct. I'm not sure quite how your relationship here works with this particular project, but build that rapport with them and just say, look, I'm 100% interested. I love the scheme. Assuming you do, assuming the end product that you're going to put into the market in 12, 18, 24 months time is still appropriate. And I want you to think about that, ask yourself that question seriously, because the world is changing. We talk a lot on that about the market, what's changing, what is going to be, what do people want going forward? A lot of people are rethinking lives. A lot of people are having to rethink their lives. So assuming that answer is still correct, build that rapport and talk about, yeah, well, I'm definitely interested, but I'm not sure what that number is at the moment because I need to make my deal stack up. And just keep the channels open. And when there's a point and you know what the number is, that vendor's got a choice. They've got a choice to either stick it on the market again, wait to re-engage someone, or they actually deal with you who's ethically approaching this in the right manner, morally doing it in the right manner, and just renegotiate a price. So definitely do it, Raj. Yeah, you want to get out and sort that out.
I think the point on that actually is that it's not as if you've got a strategy to go in high, secure the deal, and then sort of pull the rug out at the last minute. What's happening is that the market has shifted, and it's apparent to everybody. So of course, who suffers when the value of something has changed? And it goes down. Well, it's the owner, and you're not the owner. So they have to suffer the fact that there has been a depreciation on the asset that they own. Yeah, I'm sure they would have loved it had they you've been able to secure a deal with you and exchange and so on before the market shifted, but it didn't. And so unfortunately, that's just one of the things that goes with the territory. When you own something and it drops in value, you have to suffer the consequences of that, not the person that you're negotiating with to buy it.
Excellent. Yvonne, I think I said good evening to you earlier, but just in case I didn't, evening, Yvonne. She said, I need a haircut too, but she's not going to risk it. And Jacqueline said, I think Ritchie thought he would just get in first with the hair jokes before you did, Ian.
As if I have ever mentioned. I don't know where you're getting that from, Jacqueline, frankly.
Jacqueline, you and I know that he bullies me, okay? And I'm a sensitive soul, so I don't like it. So Jacqueline, thank you for sticking up for me. And anyone else who wants to stick up for me, it's about taking sides.
It's not about it.
We actually get on, funny enough. We do get on, but it's this social isolation. It's driven us mad, isn't it?
We're going to continue with this after the lockdown finishes.
Yeah, we think this is the new way. Okay, David's put a question in. David, good evening. David says, guys, how to get a well-branded website set up? So how do you get a well-branded website set up? How can you answer that one succinctly in a couple of minutes, Ian?
Well, my reputation precedes me. A well-branded website. Well, you need to have. We're trying to cover the basics with the website. You've got to bear in mind kind of the fundamental principle with a website for a property developer is that people are not going to be searching for you on Google, looking for property developers in the area and stumble across your site. What's going to happen is that you're going to be approaching people and getting the word out about what it is that you do, talking to investors, potential investors, brokers, advisors, professional teams, estate agents, buyers, all of those people. And that having met you or heard about you, they are then going to go on your website and check you out. So it needs to be kind of congruent with the whatever you portrayed to them when you met them. A lot of people can look at websites the other way and think it's got to look good when search engine optimization. Somebody's going to drop on my site that they've never come across me before, and that's going to I'm going to tell them this story. The reality is it's the other way around. So the only people that are going to come on your site realistically are the people who you've already spoken to, and they're just wanting to make sure that it's what they're expecting. So I tend to we want to make it look professional. We don't need to spend thousands and thousands and thousands, but we do need to make it look like a proper website. And we're all pretty good judges of that because, let's be honest, we all spend a fair amount of the day online, so we all know what a good website looks like. And we know when we see a cheap and cheerful one. So just make sure that it's ticking the box in terms of the quality of what you're doing. There's lots of relatively inexpensive ways of doing that. You can get a top-end developer to do it. That'll be several £1000s. You could get somebody on Fiverr.com to do it or something similar, people per hour, and they'll be able to do it for a few £100s. If you fancy giving it a go yourself, there are websites like Wix.com, Weebly.com, where they effectively template based, and you can kind of drag and drop and import your logos and so on and so forth. I think for a lot of people, for the cost of a few £100s, they probably don't want to go to the trouble of learning how to just get involved in all that, and it's a lot easier to outsource it to somebody else. And generally keep it simple. I've seen, we see a lot of websites because part of the service we provide to our students, and when we critique them, I see a lot of common mistakes. People are kind of trying to sell on it, and they're going into a lot of detail about stuff, and they don't really need to do that. They need to just make sure that if you've had a conversation, for example, with a potential investor, if they go on your website, you just need to make sure that it's written professionally. There's no spelling mistakes. It's well laid out. It looks attractive, and that you're just giving the kind of a little bit of embellishment, but not all the detail. You don't want to be talking about things like joint venturing or even mentioning any of the returns that you might get as an investor. All they need to know is that you have a panel of private investors and you offer attractive rates of return. End of story. And that will then dovetail with exactly what you've told them. In fact, they've almost certainly got more detail from you, but they've now got that box ticked, and they're thinking, okay, that's great. That does the website that I saw was kind of congruent with the conversation I had. So that, in a nutshell, that's kind of the best approach.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hopefully that has answered that question for you, David. Edward said, when we're talking about the short leases, Edward said he was the buyer. So that's good. So Edward, as I say, you're going to be pitching low, seller's going to be pitching high. Get yourself a good property lawyer. Raj has actually just responded in terms of we were talking about the ethical offer and so on. Thanks for providing clear lines for me. No problem at all. Giving me the confidence in moving forward with this project. That's what it's about. Come on here. We've been doing some of this stuff for years. I've been knocking around this industry for 37 years. So come on here. This is what it's about. It's inspiring. You're giving you confidence, a bit of positivity. So I'm pleased, Raj, we've done that for you this evening. So he says, appreciate it. And a property solicitor would be a good guest to have. Give us a wave if you'd like us to bring a good property solicitor on. I might not be able to find a good one, but I might be able to find one. Yeah, a few hands up. Okay, guys, we'll do that. Thank you very much. We'll definitely get a good property solicitor on. Okay, sorry, just jumping back up then. Debs has put a question in. Oh, Debs and Richard, I'm guessing. What platform would you recommend to manage a pipeline of potential projects, or would you just use Excel? Debs, at an early stage, I just use Excel, okay, because that's good enough for the amount of projects you're wanting to do. And at an early stage, let's not get too excited. This is a business, and something that I don't know why we're a bit unique in this, but people tell us we are, is that when we teach people property, we teach them property, business, and mindset. We teach them the three things. And a lot of people look at us like we've got two heads sometimes, but it's a business. You're running a business. So it's like a business here, Debs. At the moment, you probably don't want to be spending too much out to start with on stuff that you don't need. You know, we could recommend you go and get yourself a land insight product, that sort of thing. You know, a really first-class product, quite expensive relatively when you're kicking off. And it depends what your investment is. If you've got a bit of investment, great. If you're looking to get a lot of projects in the pipeline, terrific. That has a brilliant pipeline manager. You can manage all your projects on that. You can upload all your photos, all your data, everything. It is probably one of the best pipeline managers that I've seen, linked directly to a portal system that links up with the land registry, planning portals, Companies House. It's a brilliant bit of kit, but it's not cheap. So at the stage when you're starting out and before you've got a couple of deals under your belt and a bit of cash in your pocket, I'd say a really good, nice, simple Excel spreadsheet is going to be perfect. Put it in, track it, just, you know, because I'm assuming, Debs, knowing your setup, this is just you and Richard that's going to track this. You're not going to have to share it around with a whole office full of people. So if it's just two of you, a simple Excel spreadsheet is great. You know, if you don't work on a server, get some cloud-based. So just buy some cloud storage space off of Google or something, and just keep some of those stuff in the cloud so you can both go on to the same spreadsheet. So Richard on his machine, you on yours, and you can be adding stuff to the pipeline. So if one comes off the phone, you've had a bit of a call an agent and you've got an update on the pipeline, then you can update that without having to get the spreadsheet off the other one. So Excel spreadsheet, simple as anything, cheap and cheerful, does the job, and then upgrade in due course as you get a bit of money in the bank. But it's like any business, just be very careful in terms of what you have. Hopefully that's answered that question. Again, if you've got any follow-on questions, please put it in. Deb, straight off the bat, she said, okay, Brill, just us two for now, at least. Yeah, okay, thank you. No problem at all. Thank you for asking the question. Okay, let's just try and squeeze another question in. Connie, I'll give one for you here. This was sent in the week, so let's see if we can pick this one up. I'm not sure who this one's from. I don't have a name on this, so if this is you, I apologize that I haven't mentioned your name. Should you use an interior designer on smaller development projects, even if you're doing entry-level flats? Ian?
Cool. Gosh, okay. I think interior designers have a bit of a kind of the more challenging roles in property development, because most people think that they can do their job, and I think because we all design our own homes and we all choose curtains and stuff, that we think that we've got good taste and we could quite easily do their job. And so we tend to think of it, I think, as being, you know, non-essential, particularly if we are doing this kind of entry-level type stuff. We can just do it, you know, white, black, and grey, and then it'll be absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. So I think the problem is that most developers don't know what they don't know, and what they normally don't know about interior designers is that they do more than choose the curtains. And if you get them involved right at the start of a project, they can actually have quite a big impact in the actual design of the property, you know, the layout and so on, of working with the design team at the front end, rather than just coming in and picking the carpet. So I would definitely say there's a massive advantage to having some discussions with a couple of interior designers that have been recommended to you before you start a project, to ask them the question, what value do you feel they could add to your specific project? Particularly, I think, if it is, you know, if you describe it in terms of how some of the challenges you've got with layouts and the sort of fit and finish that you're going to go for, I think they would be able to definitely add value. I think the other thing, the massive benefit that you get from having an interior designer involved in your first project, is that the advice they give you doesn't last just for the one project. A lot of the principles that you will learn through that dialogue, you will be able to transfer to all of your subsequent projects. So, you know, I think if it's to that respect, it can be the gift that keeps on giving. Until you've actually worked into a designer, you don't know the value that they can add. So, can you get away with it without having one? Of course you can. It's not like being an architect, where, you know, you need an architect. Otherwise your house tends to fall down. This is something that you could do yourself, or you could take the advice of agents and so on, which you should do anyway. but I would definitely interview a couple of interior designers before you start and get a feel for what you think for your project where they could add value. And I think most people are often quite surprised at the value that they can add.
Good stuff. Excellent. Hopefully that's, again, answered that question. Guys, look, I hope you're finding these sessions useful. We said it on Saturday, and I just want to put a regular shout out for this. If you find this useful, hopefully you might know someone else that finds it useful. You can see what it is. It's no nonsense. This is just straight answer, straight off the bat. The truth about everything. We'll tell you how it is. We're not going to give you a lot of fluff on these sessions. If you think there's someone else out there that would enjoy this, that would enjoy the positivity, a bit of humor, well, we think it's a bit of humor anyway, but a bit of fun, upbeat, positive energy, please invite someone else, please invite a colleague. We'd love to reach out and get to more people. We absolutely love doing this, and the more people that come on, the more we keep doing it. We only set these up to do these as support sessions to start with. If you want us to carry this on, then great, bring some more people along. That'd be terrific. We get a lot on anyway, but it'd be nice to get out and reach more people. We're getting a lot of lovely comments back that people saying you're the only straight, honest people that just tell you exactly how it is out there. There's a lot of fluff going on, was the words they've used. So yeah, please, definitely bring someone else along. We are going to rename this session. There has been the competition out. Competition's now closed, and we will be choosing a name. And Saturday we'll be announcing the winner and the new name of the show. Correct, Ian?
Yeah, and of course, it doesn't get much more exciting than that, does it? I bet you can't wait until Saturday now. But that's right. There is the great and the good are getting together tomorrow. We're going to be deciding on the winning entry, and all will be revealed on Saturday.
Good stuff. And please tag us on Facebook, hashtag propertyCEO, or whatever it is you do, propertyCEO training or something. I think that's what my social media people tell us is a great thing to do. That'd be great just to share us out there. And for those that aren't aware, we've been asked by quite a lot of you on, and again, we just give this a shout every session so everyone is aware of it. We've been asked to put some content together on, why now? Why should you get into property development now? Where are the opportunities coming up? What market sectors are they in? Retail, office, etc. And also follow on with that, people saying, well, how do I get into development? We put a webinar together as a recorded webinar in response to that. If anyone's interested to have a listen to that, please go onto our website. On the homepage, there's a tab, and it's basically called Why Now? Why Now? Get into property development. It's about an hour long, but it saves us having to just do it on this session. So if you want to go and learn a little bit about why now in property, what our opinions are of where the opportunities are going to be, and if you are brand new, of how you can get into it, hopefully that's useful, because we've been asked to put that together for you guys. So please go and check that out. So Saturday show, we don't know yet. Dwayne Walker from Primer Holds, a commercial agent, which again you guys asked to bring a commercial agent on, was due last Saturday, put his back out. I don't know yet whether he's going to be better. I'm thinking probably not for Saturday. So we potentially lined up one of our students. Someone's going to come on. So what you've again asked us is, could we bring one of our mentees on, and you can ask them questions about their journey. I don't know what you want to ask them, but we have got someone lined up. If Dwayne is not available, then we're going to bring one of our mentees along, and you can fire any questions that you want. If you want, me and Ian can step out, and you can do whatever you want. It can be your session. But so Saturday should be a bit of fun, whether it's a commercial agent or whether it's one of our mentees. We're going to have the same usual fun. So, guys, look, it's just gone 1:45, coming up to 10:02. Have you enjoyed it this evening? Give us a wave if you've enjoyed the session. Excellent, lots of waving. Thank you very much. Hopefully, it's a bit of respite. It's a bit of time out, whatever you want to call it. So, thank you very much. Night. Catch up Saturday, says Dom. Thanks, guys. Really enjoyed it. Says Andrew. Andrew, I'm glad you've enjoyed it, because I think Andrew was the one who said it's his first session. So, Andrew, yeah, we'll see you next time. So we'll see you Saturday, 10 o'clock, Andrew. And indeed, everyone else, we'll see you Saturday at 10 o'clock. Please register and come along. We'll see you there. All the thanks are coming in. Chris says thanks. Deb says more great nuggets and useful information. Thank you. Deb's, thanks for attending. And thank Richard as well, who I know is sat there in the background. Maybe one day he'll be allowed to type as well. Dave says cheers. Yvonne says thank you. All good fun and tips. That's what we like. See you Saturday, says Malcolm. See you all Saturday. Thanks very much. Good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.